The city issued a notice to customers of our water system that they should boil water. And then in the wee hours of the morning, we also issued a notice that that order was being lifted. We want to provide detailed background to what transpired. Want to assure everyone that throughout this period, before, during, after, the city's water has been safe. And our team and the water department has really done a terrific job to validate that. So I want to ask Mike Caprella to come up and talk about what transpired and why it is that we took the steps that we did, particularly with the public notice. Mike.
Thank you, Mayor. Just, I'll do a little history first of what happened leading up to the issue. Is we're in the process at the water plant is they're changing out the carbon in the grinder activated carbon contactors as part of the treatment process. We take that carbon out, actually a contractor takes it out, they put it back in, they take it out, they regenerate it, they put it back in. And then after they reinstall it in the filters, we have to backwash it to get all the fines and kind of clean it up a little bit. This all is just normal stuff we've done, several times. But shortly in the afternoon, after they did that, backwashing and loading the carbon filter, it was 2 days ago, we saw some spikes in our turbidity, which is, it measures how turbid the water is. It's just it's a clarity thing. And first it was kind of baffling. It was like, why did that number go up? And so they did a whole series of samples over the next several hours, and it would go up and down. And so we knew there was something happening, but we just wasn't sure at first what it was. But during this whole process, we were still monitoring, still treating the water, and we were still maintaining a good chlorine residual, which assures you that the water is safe leaving that plant. So we were never suspicious that there would be any problems with the water going out, but we wanted to find out, what the cause was. And what we found was at the bottom, and it took quite a while after looking in the clear well. The clear wells are our finished water storage with the water that's fully treated before it gets pumped out into the system to the homes. We found one of our mechanics went down and looked at all the valves. Everything was shut. Everything was marked. They had indicators on them showing 0% open. It's also on the computers to show where things are. And there's also a hand wheel on one of the valves. And he just took that and he was able to move it, maybe 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, just a little bit, which led us to believe that there was just a little bit of that water with carbon in it, that some of the spent carbon that was going into the clear well. Well, the carbon we use in treatment anyway, and it was city potable treated water that we used to backwash, but it had a little bit of that turbidity, a little bit of unclearness to that. Well, it got to the level where it actually exceeded the EPA standards for that. So after we finally got all the numbers together, we notified the EPA, had discussions with them, and they recommended that we do a boil water issue. And in the conversations, we also agreed that we would go out in the system just for our own assurances and for the assurances of the public and get a series of samples. So yesterday evening, we dispatched several crews and worked till after 2 this morning, collecting 52 samples from all locations throughout our whole service area. All of those samples come back good. They were within the turbidity limits, and they all had good chlorine residuals. So it kind of verified what we thought from the start, that the water was okay, but we wanted to assure ourselves and the EPA that we didn't have any issues out in the system with the water that went through there. And we verified all that. As soon as we got the results back around 2:30 in the morning, I contacted the EPA director in charge of drinking water. We talked. He agreed that we'd lift the boil water order. We did that as soon as we could. We lifted the boil advisory or warning or whatever we want to call it, and notified different media outlets so that people could go on about their business of using the water without thinking they had to boil it. Think of anything
There was never any test indicating any level of dissatisfaction?
No. Every test we did showed that water was perfectly safe. We never had a bad sample at any point in time at the plant or in the distribution system. This was an advisory that we had to do. It gave us assurances also, and it gave the EPA assurances that everything was okay. So we followed the exact protocol that we needed to, but at no point in time was there any danger or anything unsafe about the water.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Questions from the media? You want to?
Was
Craig?
there the EPA guidelines you're talking about, have they changed over time? Like, have they become more stringent to where
Yeah.
maybe more of these
I-
are coming out? Like,
That's a great question, and I don't want to age myself,
Why
but,
don't you repeat the question?
okay, the question was, are these EPA guidelines on turbidity changed over time? Are they got more stringent? Yes. And the answer to that is yes, definitely yes. Years ago, I used to do some analysis in the lab at the water plant, and their turbidity levels were 5 turbidity units. Now it's less than 1 turbidity unit. And it's kind of a double standard. There's a monthly average and an instantaneous average, but it always has to be less than 1. And remember I said at one point it was 5 units. And an average, and we've got to be less than 0.3. So, in every sample, we picked up 52, 53 samples last night, and none of them were even at 0.3. I mean, it's almost nothing, okay, so. But yes, the levels have lowered, yes. And it is at EPA standard, so,
You might comment as well on how the turbidity is actually indirectly an indicator of a potential bacteriological problem.
Okay, yeah. Turbidity itself causes no problems. It's harmless. It's usually inert matter. Turbidity doesn't cause problems. The reason there's standards for turbidity is the turbidity particles, although they're microscopic in size, they get out in the system, and the theory is that if you've got those particles, although they're harmless, bacteria, if you would have bacteria in your system, could actually hide within the particles and be resistant to the contact with chlorine. So for chlorine to kill bacteria, it has to come in contact with it. And bacteria cells could possibly get within the turbidity particles and the chlorine wouldn't work. That's the theory behind, why it's important to have ultra clean water, so.
And then the testing was actually at the extremity, throughout the system, but certainly at the extremities of the
Right,
system.
yeah, we pulled out a map, we had 3 different crews, at some points even 4, and I want to publicly thank our employees. They worked all night. Excuse me, and we took a map and we looked, and picking these up in the evening is a little more difficult than it is during the daytime, but we mapped out to get them at all points in the system, from far out to in the middle to all locations, and we've mapped all that. And we're sending that map off to the EPA so they can see where we did pick up those samples at.
do residents have to do anything like maybe run their line for a second or
No,
two for
no,
anything in the pipes?
nope, no problem at all. Just everything is normal. But, we wanted to get that thing lifted this morning again before factories open. People needed to go to work and needed to use water, and we were able to do that. So that's why we went at it hard last night to get those samples that EPA wanted us to do, and to get 52 samples. They come up with that number. I think it's based on our population. There's some percentage there they use. So we did that, and they were all good samples, very good numbers.
Just to reiterate, so it's like I think it's a little bit of carbon from the filter.
It was a little bit of carbon, a little bit of color. Carbon, is very black, as you probably know, and it doesn't take very much to kind of discolor the water. It wouldn't be visible to the naked eye. It only got up to a level just a little over 2 turbidity units. Wasn't much. I guarantee I could hold a vial with turbidity of 2 or turbidity of 5 or turbidity of 1, and you could not tell the difference. It's not visible to the naked eye, but microscopically it could be, so.
Okay.
Thanks.
I want to, again, emphasize the safety of the city's water system before, during, after this process, and the fact that we were in continuous communication with the agency the Northwest Ohio office. The director called me last evening. We entered into dialogue about the best process going forward, and I think ultimately, not only did we do what we were directed to do in terms of the notification, but we also satisfied the stringent testing regime, which fully validates our description of the water product as safe for all our customers. And we want to emphasize that that's the case. So we appreciate everybody's cooperation. We know that, you know, for a period of some 6 hours or so, there was concern, public concern as a result. But I think, to your point, Craig, as these levels continue to get ratcheted down, the sensitivity of these tests get greater and greater. The likelihood of public notice about upsets in systems probably increases. And of course, those making decisions about how to proceed are sensitive to the public's concern about the health ramifications, and as we are. So we worked in concert with Ohio EPA, and I believe we met all the tests that were necessary. So with that, we want to thank everybody for your time.